Here we are again, folks. Just Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word. 2 Thessalonians. Paul had just gone through 1 Thessalonians, and he had told the folks that what they were doing was good. Yet, they had to be careful now that they didn't bring in any kind of law or anything that would cause their people to think that their salvation was by their works, even though they had good works. Now, this second letter to the Thessalonians was written. Paul, Silas, and Timothy had been over in Antioch. They were detained there for a while, and while they were there and detained, they wrote this letter to the Thessalonians. And they lived down, Thessalonica was down in Macedonia, and they were up in Antioch. And Paul sent this letter down to them by this one Timothy, who was a great helper. And can you imagine sitting under Paul the Apostle? Can you imagine? Paul said many spiritual words. I suspect that when you were with Paul the Apostle, you didn't hear much from him. You observed what he did, just like the disciples observed Jesus. And even though he said a lot and whatever, but they observed he was different than they were. He took his time to pray. He took his time to be with the Father by himself. He went off. He took the disciples and he went off with them, and he said, y'all stay here. I'm going in private and get with my Father. Why do you think he didn't say to those boys, I'm going over here at this spot and pray. You, Peter, you go over there to that spot, and James, you go over there, and John, you go over there. No, all those disciples were individual. They were not all going to be the same. They were not all going to choose up a place and get privately with the Father and pray. We're not all cut out of the same cloth. We're all different. And we're not all going to pray the same. I've had a battle with public prayer. I don't mind it. I can go to a public prayer. But I silently pray. I pray daily. I pray all the time. I'm praying while I'm talking. While I'm talking on this machine this morning to you, my heart and my mind are talking to God and praying. And I hope and pray that they're praying through to the Lord Jesus Christ, who answers and abradeth. The Bible said abradeth, that means giveth much. He giveth much. Who's he give it to? He gives it to those that ask. If you ask, you will receive. When do you ask? You ask when you get in the closet. Now, Jesus prayed in John 17. He prayed an agonizing prayer. And there are a lot of people like to put a lot of stock in that agonizing prayer for them to pray. But I'm here to tell you, you're not going to go through what Jesus went through. And you do not have to pray an agonizing prayer, because you're not going to be where Jesus was. You're not going to go through what Jesus went through. Yes, you're going to go through some temptation. Yes, you're going to go through some fire. Yes, you're going to go through some trials. The Lord said, if you follow me, you will have tribulation from the world. You're going to have it. You're going to have persecution. You're going to have tribulation in this world. But it's not going to be like going to the cross. You and I, more than likely, will not have to be martyrs for Jesus Christ. Even though there's coming a day when in the United States of America, there will be people be martyred and be killed for the cause of Christ. I say that because I see that. Where do you see that, Brother Peter? I see, as the other day, sitting downstairs yesterday for a few minutes, football game on. College now, this is college football. 49,000 in attendance, all standing there in the cold. Many of those guys you would call nuts. They were standing out there with no shirts. And it's 39, 40 degrees, 40-something degrees. They're standing there without shirts for 2.5, 3 hours. They're standing out there. Ziggy, cut it out. And they're standing out there 2 to 3 hours shouting and hollering and whatnot. And listen, I'm here to tell you, God's not pleased with such. God said glory and honor and everything on this earth. If you're going to shout, the shouting belongs to me. If you're going to worship, the worshiping belongs to me, not to a football team. But back in the Bible days, they put gladiators in the arenas. And everybody in the town came to the great Acropolis or the great arena to watch those gladiators and shouted. Who did they put in there? They put Christians in there. And they put them in there with a spear and a shield. And they turned the lions loose on them. And they fought the lions, and they fought tigers, and they fought animals. And then they sent great gladiators in there, other men chosen, men that loved to destroy other men and kill other men, who worked every day toward learning how to defend and how to kill another man. And they went in there and fought. Nothing was fair. There was no fairness in any of that. And but the people shouted and hollered. And then there were great parties afterwards and great sexual orgies, and where women danced before men with clad and no clothes, and everything happened. And by the way, there's a side of the history of man that's come through with a good man. There is a side of the man that's come through that already bordered on the sexual revolution. It was already there. I saw in an art studio a picture not long ago of a great temple, and this temple had men and women all the way around it. And I proceeded to get my magnifying glass out and take a look. And I'm here to tell you, it was worse than Playboy. It was worse than Playboy. It showed men and women doing all kinds of immoral acts in every kind of setting there is. And they're on this building over in Greece that they're carved out of stone, and they're there today. And they represent the devil himself sticking his head up on the earth and showing what he has for people, what he has to offer. Do you know something? For a few minutes there might be some pleasure in such, but the end of it is death, forever and ever and ever and ever. And can you imagine having those kind of desires in your head and your heart, being in hell forever, seeing in front of you those kind of things, yet never being able to participate in them, as well as being in fire and squirming. And not only that, far off in the distance, you can see that great ball of light, which is heaven, and those in heaven are rejoicing forever, and you can't go there, ever, not ever, because you made a choice to go the opposite direction. The opposite direction is where you'll have to go. And then you not ever